Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive into a question that I am sure has crossed all of our minds at one point or another.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Can squirrels actually remember you?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, we see them every day. They're in our parks, they're in our backyards. Sometimes they're even like right on our porches just staring at us.
Yeah, like little furry neighbors.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And, we feed them sometimes and we watch them do their little squirrel things, but do they actually know who we are?
Well, to answer that, we're gonna have to really get into the mind of a squirrel.
Exactly, and that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, diving deep.
We've got a ton of research articles, some amazing stories about squirrel intelligence, and we're going to see what the science says about whether or not those beady little eyes actually recognize us.
It's funny how we tend to underestimate these little creatures.
Totally. We think, oh, they just bury nuts and run around, but there's so much more going on in those tiny brains.
Their memory is actually incredible, especially their spatial memory.
Okay, so spatial memory, for anyone who's not familiar, that's basically like their internal GPS.
Exactly. It's how they navigate their world, how they remember where things are, and it's crucial for their survival.
I mean, think about it. They bury nuts and seeds all over the place, and they somehow remember where every single one is.
Hundreds of them, sometimes even thousands, and they can find them months later, even when they're buried under snow.
That's insane. I can barely remember where I put my keys.
Right, it's like having a mental map of your entire neighborhood, every nook and cranny, every hiding spot.
Plus, they're not just remembering the location, they're remembering what kind of nut is buried there and how long it's been there.
And some studies suggest they can even remember the quality of the nut. Like, if it was a particularly good one, they'll go back to that spot sooner.
Wow. Okay, so they're like little nut connoisseurs.
Exactly. They're not just randomly stashing food, they're making strategic decisions based on all this information they've stored in their brains.
So that's their special memory. But what about other types of memory? Like, can they remember solving a problem?
Absolutely. They've done studies where squirrels have to figure out complex puzzles to get to food.
Like little obstacle courses for nuts.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that they can remember how to solve those puzzles even after a long time has passed.
So they're not just relying on instinct, they're actually learning and remembering.
And they're really good at it. They're quick learners, and they can adapt their strategies if the puzzle changes.
Okay, so they're basically tiny geniuses with fuzzy tails.
Pretty much, their cognitive abilities are really impressive when you start to look into it.
So they've got this incredible memory for locations, for problem solving. But what about remembering us humans?
Ah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right, is it all just about associating us with food, or is there something more going on?
Well, food definitely plays a role. They quickly learn that certain humans mean a reliable supply of snacks.
So like we've become part of their mental map of where to find good eats.
Exactly. But there's evidence that suggests they can differentiate between behaviors that pose a threat and those that don't.
Okay, so like they can tell if we're just walking by or if we're coming at them with a net.
Right, for instance, squirrels on a walking path might ignore people passing by, but will dart away if someone tries to approach them directly.
That makes sense. I've definitely had squirrels that are totally chill when I'm just sitting on a bench, but as soon as I make a move towards them, they're gone.
It suggests that they're paying attention to more than just our presence.
Right, they're observing our behavior and making judgments about whether we're a friend or foe.
And they're really good at it. They've evolved to be incredibly attuned to their surroundings and to any potential dangers.
It's like they have built-in threat detectors.
In a way, they do. Their survival depends on it.
So they might be watching us more closely than we realize.
It's a possibility, and they're probably picking up on more than just our movements.
What else are they noticing?
Well, their sense of smell is incredibly sharp, so they're probably getting a good whiff of us, too.
You mean like our unique human scent?
Exactly. And just like we can recognize each other by smell, they can probably do the same.
So they might literally be sniffing us out.
It's highly likely, and they're probably using all this sensory information to build a profile of who we are.
So they're creating little squirrel dossiers on each of us.
You could say that they're gathering information about our behavior, our scent, even our appearance.
That's both creepy and kind of cool.
It's a reminder that these creatures are much more perceptive than we often give them credit for.
Oh, so they might be watching us, sniffing us, and building a mental picture of who we are. But can they actually form a bond with humans?
That's where things get really interesting, and we're going to dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
So stay tuned, folks. We're just getting started. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about squirrel memory and how it helps them remember us.
Right, but their interactions with each other are just as fascinating.
We touched on how social they are, but what else can you tell us about their squirrel society?
Well, squirrels are highly social creatures with surprisingly complex social structures, and their memory plays a vital role in all of that.
So it's not just every squirrel for themselves out there.
Not at all. They form relationships, they have hierarchies, they even seem to have friendships.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. So how does memory fit into all of this?
Well, for starters, they can remember individual squirrels they've met before and adjust their behavior accordingly.
So like if they had a run-in with a bully squirrel, they'd remember to avoid them next time.
Exactly. And on the flip side, they might remember a friendly squirrel and be more likely to share food or hang out with them.
So it's like they're keeping track of all their squirrel buddies and frenemies.
And get this, they can even remember which squirrels are related to them.
Wait, how do they know that? Are they doing little squirrel DNA tests?
Not quite, but their sense of smell is so sharp that they can actually identify relatives by scent alone.
That's wild. So they're not just recognizing individuals, they're building a whole family tree in their heads based on smell.
It just shows how important scent is in their world. It's their primary way of gathering information about other squirrels.
Okay, but what about all those little squirrel squabbles you see sometimes? Is it always about food, or is there more to it?
Food can definitely be a trigger, but their social interactions are much more nuanced than that.
So what else are they fighting about?
Well, they establish dominance hierarchies, so there's competition for the best territories, the best nesting sites, even the best meats.
So it's like a tiny furry version of Game of Thrones.
You could say that their lives are full of drama, alliances, rivalries, just like any complex social group.
And they're using their incredible memory to keep track of it all. Makes you wonder if they have distinct personalities, too.
That's a great question, and there's actually some research that suggests they do.
Really? So you might have like a shy squirrel, a bold squirrel, a grumpy squirrel, all living in the same area?
Exactly. And those personality traits can influence how they interact with other squirrels and even with humans.
So like a bolder squirrel might be more likely to approach a human for food.
Exactly, while a shy squirrel might prefer to keep their distance.
This is all so fascinating. It really changes how you look at squirrels.
Right, we often see them as just these little creatures scampering around, but there's so much more going on beneath the surface.
Speaking of beneath the surface, we talked earlier about squirrels forming bonds with humans, but what about the ethics of keeping them as pets?
That's an important question, and it's something that needs to be carefully considered.
Yeah, I mean, those videos of pet squirrels cuddling with their owners are adorable.
Hmm.
But is it really fair to keep them in captivity?
Well, squirrels are wild animals, and they have very specific needs that are difficult to meet in a domestic environment.
Right, they're not like cats or dogs that have been domesticated for centuries.
Exactly. Squirrels have strong instincts to climb, burrow, forage, and explore. Confining them to a cage, even a large one, can be really stressful for them.
So even if they seem happy and well cared for, there might be underlying issues.
Exactly. They might be experiencing boredom, frustration, even physical health problems from not being able to engage in their natural behaviors.
That's really sad to think about. What about rescuing and rehabilitating injured squirrels? Isn't that a good thing?
Rescuing an injured squirrel can be a compassionate act, but the goal should always be to release them back into the wild when they're healthy.
So we shouldn't be trying to keep them as pets, even if they've been injured.
There are dedicated wildlife rehabilitators who specialize in caring for injured squirrels and preparing them for release.
They know how to provide the right diet, the right enrichment, and the right socialization to help them thrive back in their natural habitat.
Exactly, and that's really the best outcome for these animals.
But what about cases where a squirrel is so badly hurt or so imprinted on humans that it can't survive on its own?
Those are difficult situations, and sometimes sanctuary care or placement with an experienced and responsible caregiver is the best option.
But it sounds like keeping a squirrel as a pet should really be a last resort.
It's important to remember that these are wild animals and their well-being should always come first.
So maybe instead of trying to bring squirrels into our homes, we should focus on appreciating them in their natural environment.
Absolutely. Let's create spaces where they can thrive. And let's learn more about these amazing creatures so we can coexist with them in a way that benefits both them and us.
That's a great message.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears back to the wild for a minute. We talked about how memory helps squirrels navigate their social lives. But what about their connection with the environment? How does memory help them survive out there?
Their spatial memory is absolutely crucial for their survival. Think back to those hundreds of food caches they create.
Right. It's like they have a mental map of their entire territory.
And it's not just about remembering where they buried each nut. It's about understanding the landscape, the changing seasons, the availability of different food sources.
So they're not just randomly burying nuts, they're making strategic decisions about where and when to store their food.
Precisely, they're choosing locations based on factors like soil, type, tree cover, proximity to landmarks. They're constantly updating their mental map as the environment changes.
Wow, it's like they have a built-in GPS for nuts.
And it's not just about food. They also use their memory to navigate their territory, avoid predators, find safe nesting sites.
So their memory is literally a matter of life and death out there in the wild.
Absolutely, it's their most valuable tool for survival.
This is all so incredible.
Yeah.
It really makes you appreciate the complexity of these seemingly simple creatures.
And we've only scratched the surface in the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore some of the latest research on squirrel cognition and what it can teach us about animal minds in general.
I can't wait to hear more. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive into squirrel intelligence. And we are back for the final part of our squirrel intelligence extravaganza. It's crazy to think about how much we've learned already.
I am right. It's like we've been on a journey into a hidden world.
Exactly. And in this last part, we're going to go even deeper. We're talking about cutting-edge research, the stuff that's pushing the boundaries of what we know about squirrel brains.
Scientists are coming up with all sorts of creative ways to study these creatures.
Like, what kind of stuff are they doing?
Well, one area that's really fascinating is how squirrels adapt their behavior based on changing conditions.
So, like, if their favorite nut tree suddenly stops producing.
Exactly. How do they adjust their foraging strategies? How do they remember which caches are still good after months have passed?
It's like they have to constantly update their mental map of the neighborhood.
And they do. They're incredibly adaptable, which is one of the reasons they're so successful.
Okay, but how do scientists actually study this stuff? I mean, you can't just ask a squirrel what they're thinking.
Right. But you can observe their behavior in really clever ways. For example, researchers have set up experiments where they give squirrels different types of nuts, some that are easy to open and some that are really tough.
Like a squirrel puzzle challenge.
Exactly. And they watch to see how the squirrels approach the task. Do they go for the easy nuts first, or do they try to crack the tough ones?
And what do they find?
Well, it turns out that squirrels are really good at assessing the costs and benefits of different options.
So they're not just acting on instinct. They're weighing their options like little furry economists.
And they're also really good at learning from each other.
So like if one squirrel figures out a clever way to get a nut, the others will catch on.
Exactly. Researchers have seen squirrels watching each other and then copying their behavior. It's like they have a little squirrel school going on.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It really shows how social learning plays a role in their intelligence.
And it's not just about food. They've also observed squirrels using social cues to learn about predators.
So like if one squirrel sees a hawk and starts making alarm calls, the others know to take cover.
Exactly. And the more experienced squirrels seem to be the best at teaching the younger ones.
It's like they have a whole system of knowledge transfer within their social groups.
And this kind of social learning is actually really important for their survival because it allows them to adapt to new threats and new environments.
So it's not just about individual smarts, it's about collective intelligence.
Exactly. They're working together to figure things out, and that's one of the things that makes them so successful.
This is all so mind-blowing. It makes you realize that squirrels are far more complex than we often give them credit for.
And the more we study them, the more we realize how much they can teach us about animal intelligence in general.
Right. I mean, if these little creatures can exhibit such sophisticated cognitive skills, it makes you wonder what other animals are capable of.
Exactly. It challenges our assumptions about the boundaries of intelligence, and it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a whole new level of respect for squirrels after this deep dive.
Me too. They're definitely not just cute little fluff balls anymore.
They're resourceful, adaptable, intelligent creatures that have carved out a niche for themselves in a world full of challenges.
And they're a reminder that we share this planet with a diversity of amazing life forms, each with its own unique way of navigating the world.
So the next time you see a squirrel darting across your path, take a moment to appreciate the complexity of that little brain and the incredible journey that led to its evolution.
Maybe they're even watching you back, taking note of your behavior and adding it to their own mental map of the world.
And who knows, maybe they're even remembering your face.
Stranger things have happened in the fascinating world of squirrel intelligence.
Well, that's a wrap on our squirrel deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride.
It's been a pleasure exploring the mysteries of the squirrel mind with you.
And we hope you learned something new about these amazing creatures.
As always, keep your eyes open and your curiosity alive. You never know what wonders you might discover right in your own backyard.
Until next time,
Yeah.
happy squirrel watching, everyone.